Hello everybody, I'm Slow and this is my world. Welcome one and all. How are we doing? It's another chilly one, but the sun is shining in the sky, the clouds are gone, there's a few vapour trails around. And I'm heading out into the Peak District again. As you may recall, my NC750 that I'm out on today recently hit 50,000 miles. And I've ridden pretty much all of them. So I thought I might do a quick video on what it's been like. The ups, the downs, the awesome, the not so awesome. The not so awesome is following traffic, but never mind. Not a lot I can do about that. At least I'm not stuck behind that, I suppose. So that's a good thought to start with. So for this video I thought I'd go through a few things that I love and hate about this bike. A couple of experiences along the way, maybe, who knows. I don't think the first thing I should address is the funk at the front here. Yes, it's one of the reasons I bought the bike. The extra luggage space it provides, but it has genuinely become very useful at times. For example, if I'm at work and I've not brought a backpack or anything like that with me, and my other boss says, "Oh, can you pick this up?" Or if I know I'm short of something or I think of something I need, I can nip to the shops, put my heavy duty chain on the bike, go and get the bits, put them in the trunk here, so long as they're of a certain size obviously, but we're talking 4-pint bottles of milk, loaves of bread, all that sort of stuff. It's brilliant. It really is well worth it. I probably use this more often than I don't. I mean, alright, take away, for example, the locks that I carry every day. There's normally something else I'm carrying in there. As I say, going shopping or something like that. Little bits of shopping where you don't want to have the big bulky boxes on the back. Well, I don't want to be carrying a backpack with bottles of milk in, because that can get quite heavy. And yes, on occasion I have put my full face helmet in here, so they do fit, they genuinely do fit. Provided, of course, you don't have a peak on the helmet. If you have an adventure style helmet with a peak on the top, probably not going to fit. Because of the peak, more than anything else. Okay. There's a way around it by the looks of it. Is that a pedestrian route, I wonder? It is. Balls. That's just a dead end. You're going it. Thought. No, access only. Sorry? No, I know. I'm checking other routes. Can I go up there? Oh, okay. Oh. Very helpful of him. Now, for all the good that the frunk is, and it is good, it has a downside, and that's that the fuel tank is underneath the seat at the rear, underneath the pillion seat. Now, I suspect for most people who are just commuting on this bike, that's not a big issue. But if you want to use this for, say, tours and camping, as I originally did, and as I have done several times, it means that if you have a pack on the back seat, you're going to need to take that off every single time you want to fill up. And I'll be honest, when I was out in Austria and I was trying to figure out how all the petrol pumps worked in the various countries, the added necessity to take the pack off the back was a bit of a pain, I'll be honest with you. Off this road. Working in this bike's favour in terms of fuel though is that although it's only a 14 litre tank and although it's underneath the rear seat, which is a pain, as I mentioned, the 14 litres will do you good for 200 miles. Honestly, I regularly go down to see my brother. He lives down in Wiltshire. It's about 180 miles there or abouts down the motorways to get there. And on E5 premium unleaded, by the time I get down there, or conversely on the journey back, by the time I get back, I'm just about hitting the reserve on this. And the reserve is part of the main tank. It's 3 litres. So I'm doing 180 miles at motorway speeds, for the most part, on 11 litres of fuel. I think that's pretty good. Again, the fuel economy is something I bought this bike for. But it really is good. It really does make the bike worthwhile. mechanically, over the 50,000 miles that I've done, well, a little over now, it's as you would expect from a Honda. It's been basically bulletproof. The only thing I could really throw at it is that it's about 28,000 miles. The rear wheel bearings went, or at least one of them. And in fairness to the chap at the Honda dealership, he replaced it without charge. He did it under warranty. But with it now at 50,000 appearing to be going again, I'm wondering whether this is something that I have caused, you know, in terms of not tightening the axle up properly when I've done my chain maintenance, adjusting the chain, etc. Is it something I've done then? Is it something I've done then, or is it something that's just happened naturally on its own? I don't know the answer to that. I suspect I could have done better with the maintenance. I think that's probably a good way to put it. I could have done better, but by no means is that certainty. I will also say the design for the centre stand is not brilliant. The centre stand is an optional extra on this bike, so if you should choose to want to go and buy one, it may or may not have a centre stand. It's something like 150 quid extra. And although I've had my bike now for 4 years, it keeps seizing up. It keeps, and it's, when it does seize up, it's almost impossible to get the damn thing apart. It really does seem like something that you have to take apart regularly to keep it lubricated, which is a pain in the rear, frankly. Now, as I may have mentioned a few times, I have the luggage set for this, the official Honda luggage set. It's not the biggest luggage you're ever going to get for a bike, I'll be honest with you there. The top box will fit a full-size helmet in, the two pannier boxes will not. They are rather oddly shaped, if I'm being completely honest with you. But the reason I got them was because I don't like the unsightly bars on the side of the bike when you haven't got the panniers on. And I use the panniers enough that putting them on and taking them off as and when I need to use the boxes just isn't feasible. So purely from an aesthetic point of view, I wanted the Honda boxes. And aside from the top rack, if you were to look at this bike without the panniers on, I don't think you could really see where the panniers would actually fit. Sure, you say you've got the plate at the back for the top box, granted, and there's little hoops on that for where it clips at the top, and there's a couple of protrusions lower down where the boxes slot in further down, but that aside, there's nothing to suggest that there are boxes there. I like that. I think it's neat, and slotting the boxes on is really simple. It's a 2-minute job, if that, and it uses the ignition key. So you can't leave your key in the back, in the top of the box or in the pannier boxes and go and start your bike and ride off. You can't do it because you need the key to start the bike. Much like you need the key to open up this top box. But that does bring with it one warning that I do need to bring to you. I would suggest that you do not keep the ignition key anywhere near the inside of this box. Because if you lock the key in there, you will need a spare key to get it out. You'll need a spare key to open up the box, because that's the only way you're getting it open. I accidentally did it once. I didn't realise I'd done it. And I think I was in Europe at the time. So not the best place to be doing it, but fortunately for me, the box hadn't clicked shut properly. So it was still open, I could get the key out. I looked for a few minutes thinking, no, I couldn't possibly have put it in there. I'm not that stupid. Yeah. So do not keep it anywhere near that box. The bike itself, though, has performed faultlessly on 2 trips into Europe. In fact, it had the trip out to Austria, where I spent a couple of days, well, 3 in total actually, in Germany. Weekend in Austria for the Austrian Grand Prix, and then came back through Italy and San Marino, back through Switzerland and France, and she did not miss a beat. She did not miss a beat. Didn't put a foot wrong. She is quite happy to sup on E10 fuel, but as E10's not as efficient as E5, I try not to put E10 in. I have to sometimes, but I really don't want to. The trip down to Spain I did, made 2.5 days going down, about 3 days coming back. I took an overnight ferry over the channel, finished work on a Friday afternoon, went down to Portsmouth, got the ferry across. A day through France, a day through Spain. Oh, I should mention, if you get one with a data tool tracker on, if it's an older one, like this 18, if it's of that sort of vintage, the battery may have an issue. And I'm not putting this down to the bike's bad, I'm not putting this down to the battery's bad, I'm putting this down to the tracker is bad. It seems to kill batteries rather more quickly than it should do. So that's something to watch out for if it has the data tool tracker on it. The newer ones, I think 19 and later, I think they're slightly better and they don't kill the batteries quickly. But the earlier ones, there's something about it. I don't think it's the battery on the bike that's tough, because I've replaced the battery with the new one and the new one suffered exactly the same problem. But on my CBR, which is a 19 plate bike, I don't have that problem. At least it's not as bad, nowhere near as bad. But if you're commuting on this every day, it's not an issue. I do think that this bike is the best commuter bike out there. I really do. You've got the power to overtake anywhere when you feel like it. Highways are not a problem should you need to commute on those or have a day out or whatever. The luggage space, it's just, yeah, I don't think there's another bike quite like this one. Let's go up to Monsell Head. It's starting to get dark, so might have to head home after this. The battery is nice and easy to get hold of as well. It's not in the seat, it's actually in the front of the bike here, in the luggage compartment, which makes for nice easy access should you need to. And covered access at that. Because you can put the lid back down. If you should, you know, if your battery dies or whatever, put the charger in there, connect it up, and then, yeah, close the lid over again. The lid's, maybe it's a little bit flimsy. It's not, it's nicely weighted, I think, in that if I'm riding along, I don't have to have it fully closed. I can keep it slightly open, and it's not going to fly up and hit me in the chest every 5 minutes. I can only think actually of one occasion where it did that, and it was in high winds when I was doing 130 k's over in Europe, and yeah, I had it open for various reasons, and it just, yeah, came up and hit me in the chest. But in the UK, it just hasn't done that. I haven't been going fast enough, obviously. But I would say, try to keep it locked, in all honesty, because you don't want that happening. It's a bit of a jolt when it does. We're gonna head home because it's getting dark. Been a nice jaunt. Yeah, I'll reiterate, this is not the most fun bike out there, but it is the best commuter in my opinion. You can have fun on it, you can have these days out, these trips out of the evenings, on weekends, and enjoy it. I do. And it's comfortable to do it. As I mentioned, I went down to Spain in 2.5 days, came back in 3, and okay, by the end of the 3rd day, I was kind of feeling it a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with this seat or this seating position. It is comfy. I'll grant you, the Sprint I have has a much more comfortable seat. But this is perfectly adequate. This really is perfectly adequate for any medium length journey. The headlight is more than adequate, in my opinion. The high beam I only really need in really dark conditions, when there's no street lights or anything like that, and obviously no oncoming traffic because they're going to blind everyone, but for any sort of medium conditions, so street lit conditions if you're in the middle of the night, or even this sort of 4, 5, 6 o'clock in winters, it's the low beam is more than adequate. This is the generation of bike where it has LED headlights and LED tail lights, but the indicators are still bulbs. I don't really understand that, I'll be honest. You would have thought they just gone LEDs all around or bulbs all around, but there you are. I don't think there's any generation of this bike that had LED indicators as standard, but that doesn't mean you can't fit them, should you want to. You chose that moment to turn your lights on. Thank you very much. In terms of electrics, this is bare bones stuff. I mean, even the display is basically what you need. The one thing I found though, a lot of people say they want gear indicators on bikes, and I just don't get it, because I feel like I knew the gears better with my CBR 125R, which didn't have a gear indicator. And with this and with my CBR, I think I've got lazy, because I can look down and I can see the gear that I'm in. It's not a bad point on the bike, it's just, you know, technology. You've got your fairly standard sort of display on here, fuel, revs, trip reader if you want that. On my previous video on the NC750, someone asked, would they consider this a trade-up from another bike? The bike they chose in particular was the CB500X. Now I would say in relation to that specific bike, and I guess other bikes that are similar to it, it's not a great upgrade from that. It is an upgrade, but it's just not much of one. But if you're looking for your first big bike, or you're looking for a decent, solid commuter bike, you cannot do better than this. In my opinion, you cannot do better than this. It's not an adventure bike, it's not a sports bike, it's not a cruiser, but if anything else, if you just want a bike commuting to and from work, get this. I don't know how well this is going to pick this up, but in a minute I'll put the high beam on and I'll show you what it's like in comparison, because this is the low beam. It may not make much difference down these roads. Oh no, there we go. That's the high beam. And that's the low beam. High beam, low beam. Anyway, I think I've covered the most. If you have any questions about this bike, anything you want to know, I will put a question in the comment section. I will do my best to answer it. If it's a particularly good question, I'll do a video on it. Oh, I've got someone right up my jacksie in the dark, isn't that nice? I can actually see further with your headlights than I can with mine. Well done, mate. Anyway, guys and girls, thanks for calling it a night and a video. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Until the next time, be good humans. Ta-ta for now.